So I had a COVID milestone yesterday.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I couldn't take it anymore. And I shaved my own fucking head and immediately regretted it.
Your entire head?
My whole head.
Whole head, whole hog. Oh my God, you did!
I fucking hate it.
What caused
immediately
you to do that?
after shaving it, I regretted it thoroughly. Well, because so like my thing, right? I'm lucky and unlucky in the way that, lucky in the way that my barber, who I love, not just because he does a great job with my hair, but because he is a wonderful human being, is being very COVID conscious. So he won't, if the numbers are high, he shuts down and doesn't do work, which I actually appreciate. It makes me feel better about going to him when things are like a little more stabilized. But I can't stand having shaggy hair. It like ruins my whole day. So what I have been doing is doing the shave just the sides and the back of your head.
Right, I've seen you do, yeah.
And then you can kind of slick it back, but then I will do that and I'll be like, dude, you just look like Richard Spencer, like you look like a fucking Nazi, so that's not good either. So I had that cut for a day and then decided I couldn't handle it, so I just went ahead and did away with the whole thing. And dude, honestly, if I could pay $200 right now and just wake up with shaggy hair again tomorrow, I would do it immediately, without thinking about it.
I think it looks fine.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I do appreciate that. Maybe I just need to get used to it. I feel like my hair is normally kind of tall too, so when I don't have any, I feel like my head looks real short and kind of compressed.
Your head does look like a different shape now, yeah.
Right? I know. I don't like the shape. I need the hair to come back, So that's something to look forward to, I guess.
We're all going through it though. I've got the Jonathan Taylor Thomas fucking look now, and just trying to own it.
Yeah. I mean, it's rough all over, Anyway, I don't know. I guess this is a good endorsement for what experiencing this show via YouTube.
Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube to see Skylar's head, folks.
My fucking shitty head, my short ass fucking lame looking head.
I like that you can see someone and you can tell instantly if they haven't cut their hair at all, or if their partners tried to do it, or if they actually braved it and went to the haircutter.
The Rona rays.
Yep.
Yeah. Rona rays, yeah.
You can totally do that. And then the people who are just cheating and who have great haircuts again.
These motherfuckers. They make me also the people who are walking around with fresh tattoos. I'm like, look, man, we're all dying for haircuts and tattoos. All right, I'm
two
fucking
things
there
that
with
get me out of bed.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta wait.
I went to the grocery store, which is next to this little salon, and there was this woman getting her toenails done outside. The priorities are just
Oh, totally. I've been hearing
don't.
rumblings in the East Sac circles of where they can get manicures and pedicures.
I like it. I mean, technically, I could just cruise down to the Capitol, a few blocks away, on really any given weekend, and there's probably a bunch of right-wing Trump people cutting each other's hair on the Capitol steps as a protest or whatever. So I guess that is an option that's available to me if I decide that not having coronavirus is not working for me.
Get them up.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to grow mine full out. I want to see what it's like to be able to have a full ponytail.
I'm into it, dude. I think you should also grow out the facial hair too and get a dude thing going, like the dude from Big Lebowski.
It takes a little bit longer. And I'm finding white hairs in the beard, so that's a little disturbing. But maybe it's cool too. I don't know.
All right. Well, you guys want to get started on the show?
Let's do it.
All right.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All
one, you have Kempa.
And Skylar.
And that's it.
And that's
for the host.
Yeah, that's that. And Shannon. And
Yeah,
Flo.
And Flo. We have no Shannon and Flo today. Shannon is just today reopening Mary House after 2 weeks of it being shut down because an employee, I believe, had tested positive for coronavirus. So she's been extremely busy today. And Flo, of course, is the chair of the Measure U Oversight Committee. So she is currently on that call, breaking skulls and, taking names. So just the two of us as hosts, just like 55 episodes ago,
Back in the good old days.
yelling about Daryl Steinberg. But we are very lucky to have two exciting guests. We have Seth Strumwasser and Michaela Vazquez. They are the co-chairs of DSA Sacramento's Electoral Committee. How are you, Seth and Michaela?
Swell.
Great.
Okay, Seth, how are you?
Seth said nothing.
Oh, sorry, I think my internet cut out. Is why I didn't hear that. I was like, are they just talking to Michaela?
I
or-
thought you were like, yeah, just making us wait, like
building
Building
suspense.
suspense, yeah.
Mhm.
And boy, was the suspense built.
Yeah,
The suspense was built.
I was
Um,
dying to know whether you were doing well or not.
I'm doing well. Yeah, I mean, as well as anybody can be. I've managed to escape the Sacramento heat.
Oh yeah, where are you at?
fortunately. I'm in the East Bay in Lafayette at my parents' house.
Very nice.
Very nice. What's it like? How hot is it out there?
It's actually pretty miserable. Usually it doesn't get very hot here, but it was like 95 and super humid today. So not
That's
great.
pretty bad for out
That's
there.
pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we were in the hundreds in Sacramento, but like
It's also humid here. It feels weird. It's
Also
like, it
weirdly
does not
humid.
feel like Sacramento heat.
And one of the weird things where there's smoke, there's a fire, I believe, around Lake Berryessa currently, and the smoke rolled in and sort of created a fake cloud, and so that weirdly kept us a little cooler today.
Did you all have a
Feels
lot of
like-
lightning?
Last night. Yeah.
I slept right through all that. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know how that's possible. Like, I went outside when it started last night around like 1 or something like that, and all the car alarms on my street were going off and whatnot. After the initial, like when the storm was right over us and the thunder like really hit, it shook the whole house and set all the car alarms off. It was wild as hell.
That
Wow.
was chaotic evil.
I was
Great light
camping.
show.
I was camping on the Sonoma coast on Saturday night, and we woke up at like 3 a.m. to lightning and thunder. That was pretty spooky.
I'll bet.
Wow. Michaela, are you currently in Sacramento right now?
I'm not. I'm in
Okay.
San Francisco.
Oh, you're both lucky then. You're both out in the Bay Area currently.
Yep. I had to escape.
Well-
I was in Sacramento over the weekend and it felt like Kansas. And I went to Kansas for space camp once, and it was only a week long, but I made a promise to my 15-year-old self that I would never return to the armpit of this country, Kansas.
As a
And
Midwesterner,
Sacramento
I can
has-
attest.
Sacramento has taken some inspiration, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's been wild the last few days. Well, so these two co-chairs of this electoral committee in SAC are currently not in SAC, but we,
Not a good look.
we how humiliating, right? But yeah, we wanted to have you on today and sort of discuss, not just what it is you're doing, but some of the campaigns that DSA is putting its weight behind as we get near the November election. So I'm really excited to have you two. Can we just start with what is your committee, what it does, and go from there?
And Michaela, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So we are the Electoral Committee. We were recently formed like a month ago, 2 months ago. Basically, we just we provide like the structure to run successful campaigns, hopefully through DSA, to create a formal like endorsement process for people that are going to be endorsed by SAC DSA, and stuff like that. We have like a subcommittee that recommends people that we should endorse or we should not endorse, and presents that to the general member, and then the membership, and then the members vote on it. And yeah.
Okay, so there are iterations of this in other chapters, correct? I like your New York City DSA has something like that.
Yeah.
And they had wild success in their primary elections, getting multiple socialists into the state legislature, as well as at least one endorsed person in Jamal Bowman into Congress. So SAC DSA has had a little success in that regard, but this was before the creation of your committee.
Yes.
Was the creation of the committee sort of in response to like, hey, we picked a winner in Katie Valenzuela for city council, but maybe we need a more streamlined process?
Definitely. We saw the success of Katie Valenzuela and were immediately like inspired to run more campaigns like this, because we got to flex our muscles, we got to build power, and it's not going to happen if we're all just kind of disorganized. So yeah, we really enjoyed running Katie's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just add that we had a really successful DSA for Bernie campaign here in Sacramento, and Bernie ended up winning the county by I think 11 or 12 points, and that was, I think, one of the biggest and most successful campaigns that SAC DSA has run recently. And we really wanted to hold on to that momentum, and we had a lot of volunteers mobilized, and we really wanted to make sure that we could hold on to that momentum and use it to move forward and run some other campaigns. And I think we're well positioned to do that now.
Excellent. So we want to talk to you about really just about anything that is interesting, to you, as SAC DSA's, political committee chairs. But, there was one November issue in particular that we wanted to have you on to discuss. And that is an issue that is near and dear to all of our hearts, which is taxing the fucking rich. So Seth, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Prop 15? It certainly doesn't exist in a vacuum. So first of all, tell people what it is, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the history of how it came to be.
Yeah, so Prop 15 is really the latest chapter of a kind of decades-long saga that we've had in California with concerning property tax policy. And to understand Prop 15, we have to go back to the infamous Prop 13, passed in 1978, which basically slashed property taxes to really low levels, put limits on how much they could rise each year, and importantly, basically made it so that properties are taxed at their assessed value at the time of their sale. And originally, this is something I learned today reading up on it, originally they actually made the tax apply to the assessed value in 1976, which was 2 years before the ballot initiative passed. So it was really like a historical cut to property taxes. But most importantly, because of the
values
provision,
have gone up, inflation has happened, and properties are not really
right. They don't pay tax to reflect inflation or any of that.
Okay. Exactly. Because of the provision that these properties are taxed at their value when they were sold. You have, for the one hand, people living in houses that they bought 30 or 40 years ago, paying taxes based on what the house was worth 30 or 40 years ago. And if you know anything about California, you know that that's totally insane. Where houses have, increased in value 5 to 10 fold over the past few decades. But most importantly, is you have these huge corporations that own huge amounts of real estate, and they too are taking advantage of this loophole. And the best example of this is Disneyland, which everyone likes to point to, because Disneyland is one of the largest landowners in California, and they're taking advantage of this policy to pay, almost nothing on all of the land that they own, and that's money that the state of California needs.
I did not even think about that. I've been reading about Prop 15 kind of all day. That must be, just Disneyland must be like hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like crazy amounts of money.
It's estimated that it'll bring in like $12 billion to the state of California.
Wait, Disneyland or Prop 15?
No.
Prop 15, not
okay.
Yeah,
I was like,
Disneyland.
What the fuck? I knew they were like worth a lot of money.
That would be insane. But all Prop 15 billion.
So continuing with after Prop 13, kind of what came next? California has sort of had a history of austerity. But little by little, it feels like we've been chipping away at that, correct?
Somewhat. I'm certainly no expert in this history, but there's been a number of important amendments to Prop 13 over the years. And one of them, I believe it's 218, Proposition 218. And it basically made it so that, and I might be mixing up the number, but basically makes it so that changes in tax code require 2/3 majority in both houses of the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that was done to make it extremely hard to raise taxes. And I think, we've made some progress on that because the Democratic Party has managed to take over, the California legislature. But as we know, they're not always super friendly to raising taxes on the rich. So
there are plenty of conservative Democrats in the state, for sure.
Yeah, and they're sort of following the footsteps of like a Jerry Brown in austerity measures that adversely impact lower classes. And they still continue to be a little averse to taxing the super rich. And as we all know, you look at any economic statistics in the state, that's where all the wealth in our state is. So let's move to Prop 15. Like, what is that, and why are people fired up about it?
Yeah, so an important part of Prop 13 is that it covers both residential and commercial properties. And this was important when they were originally passing the proposition, as they sold it as a protection for retirees and your grandparents who live in their house that they bought 30 or 40 years ago. And as they saw inflation, they were selling it as, here's a way to protect these retirees from having to pay huge amounts of taxes on their houses that are raising in value. And so a lot of propositions have tried to repeal Prop 13 or cut holes in it, but a lot of them have failed because this message is really, really impactful and really effective, saying like, you can't touch Prop 13, you're going to throw grandma out on the street.
Right. Sink small businesses or any of that other fucking
right.
You know, that
Exactly.
laundry list of reasons that people throw out to not pay taxes or contribute to society in any meaningful fucking way.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so what's really important about Prop 15 is not only does it exempt residential properties, so it has nothing to do with grandma's house, it has nothing to do with your apartment building, all that. It also sets a threshold of properties worth $3 million. So this proposition is really only closing the loophole for large corporations and people who own lots of commercial properties that they're profiting off of.
Mhm.
Right. So like most of the money that is funding the opposition to this is from like out of state, right?
Yeah.
Like aren't they like a ton of like people who do own a lot of commercial property in here who don't live any like maybe like in the state or anywhere near here, who are funding it. I think at that point that it only applies to people who are making more than $3 million on commercial real estate, like cannot be belabored enough, because I guarantee you, like Seth was saying, the opposition is going to come in super hard with like, this is going to hurt working families and small businesses and even trickle down to hurting renters and blah, 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 blah. And if like a cursory glance through this proposition reveals that is in fact completely false. And this prop is specifically written not to do that.
Exactly. And online you can find like all of their scare tactics and stuff, and like how to debunk those. I mean, yeah, they definitely go for like the idea that we're going to throw grandma out of her historical home, when it's just clearly outlined that we are only closing the loophole for these multi-million dollar corporations.
Yeah. So it's corporations not just lying about that, but also hiding behind small businesses and
Right.
grandmas.
Yeah, there's some site that I found
Chef
that was
kiss.
like in opposition to this, called it's this group Reform California, and it like they're like this. They look like a right-wing activism deal, and their like entire purpose is to try and get out of paying taxes of any kind. Also to support the police. What was their other thing? They have some really great causes. Stop high-speed rail is another one of these great causes that they're really into.
Of course.
Mhm.
They sound awesome.
Yeah, doing great work.
Yeah. Honest work. Honest work.
Yeah, one, I don't know if you came across this, but the main opposition who has been involved in all of these fights over the years is the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And
I
Howard
immediately
Jarvis,
love that name. Yeah.
it's got such a
cool.
it's got such a comical like evil capitalist name, but it's this guy
Fucking
Howard
monocle.
Jarvis, yeah, who was a lobbyist and businessman in the 70s, who was kind of the main voice behind Prop 13. Yeah, this group has been there every 2 or 4 years. If there's anything to do with taxes on the ballot, they're ready to bring out their anecdotes about grandma getting thrown out on the street, or small businesses that are going to be hurt by whatever. So and yeah, if you have a chance, you got to look up a picture of Howard Jarvis, because he's just like this
All right.
absolute character with an extremely punchable face.
Yeah, I'm imagining like Ebenezer Scrooge, basically.
I'm so excited. Oh my God. Hell yeah.
So once assuming that Prop 15 is successful and we are able to take in billions from commercial real estate owners who can afford to pay those taxes, is that money earmarked for anything? Like, is there a plan for where that funding will go?
Yeah, so it's actually it actually makes it pretty easy to campaign for this, because all it's going to do is bring in more property taxes, and there's already laws on the books which dictate where that tax money goes. So property tax money in California is apportioned at the state level. to make sure that districts with, lower value homes and properties are getting the right amount of money for public schools and public services, all of these things that we rely on for a functioning society. And of course, it doesn't work as well as it's supposed to. But the beauty of campaigning for Prop 15 is that it just makes that pot of money bigger, and is going to help, every county in the state shore up, these budget crises that we're going to have especially with COVID-19. But I mean, that's been the history of state budgets for decades, is trying to recoup all of these losses from neoliberal tax policies.
Yeah. And, there's a direct line between this sort of small government neoliberalism, cutting taxes, and then us not being able to fund really important fucking shit. And that's why our public schools in California are in the state that they're in today.
Right.
I was looking, the other main group against this is the California Chamber of Commerce. They tend to call shit like this, I don't know. They like to call things like this a job killer, right? Claiming that the small businesses will go under because as a result of this, obviously you've already debunked that, you too. But it actually reminds me that the head of the Chamber of Commerce here in Sacramento, and I guess I have to admit, like, it's a friend of mine, but, I'm interested to see, because they probably will come out against it. But, she talks publicly about how her husband is a public teacher in South Sac. And this is the kind of thing that could actually help his students and actually improve lives in parts of town like that. So I don't think an argument that this is a job killer or something like that really flies at all.
No, it absolutely doesn't. If they try to use that excuse, it's ridiculous, because small business is not going to be making $3 million.
Right.
That's not a small business.
If you can afford that, you can afford it. Yeah.
You can afford to pay taxes on it, as if you own it in the year 2020.
A concept.
Right.
Yeah, no. And another thing I read was that this is also going to be reclaiming money to prepare for disasters, maybe a wildfire.
Interesting.
We have those sometimes.
For global pandemics.
One of those, throw it in.
I can't even imagine.
No, but we have, the feds give us money to deal with that county by county, and Sac County uses that exactly right all the time.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I trust
it will go to the fires and the pandemic, and definitely not to the salaries of our sheriff's deputies who kill people.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
So why is DSA interested by Prop 15? And is there sort of some coalescing action around this one?
I mean, the people want to tax the rich.
Yeah. I sort of send you a softball with that one.
Caught it. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. So the Democratic Socialists of America are then in favor of taxing the rich.
I'd go ahead and say on that one.
We're breaking a big one on this one.
I'm going to want to hear more about these Democratic Socialists of America.
Crazy take. Yeah, it was record breaking to get Prop 15 on the ballot. It was 1.7 million people or something like that. It's almost like people want to tax the rich.
Right. I mean, less that people want to tax the rich, but people want to have funding for things like schools that their kids can go to and get a nice education from, or
a little bit of safe drinking water.
Right.
Perhaps?
Exactly.
Some of that.
Communities that don't have any money that could use to be lifted up a little bit in order to make the lives better for the people who live there. Those things need to be funded somehow. Traditionally, that's done through taxation.
in functioning societies, yes.
One would say.
Right.
That's another thing that I like to talk about Prop 15 is like, I think because it's so well targeted at large corporations, it's, you know, we can make the argument that it's like, we're not stealing money from these companies because that money is money that they stole from our communities, you know, from their workers, and from, you know, the crazy tax breaks and other gifts that local governments give to companies to move into town. Yeah, it's, you know, I think another thing is that this lines up really well with campaigns to defund the police, and to shift funding away from policing and punitive measures, because you know, social services and strong public schools are really the other side of the coin from policing and mass incarceration when it comes to you know, how capitalists manage the working class. And people say, you know, what are we going to do without the police? And you know, the answer is we'll provide for people in our communities. We'll give them the opportunity to get a good public education. We'll give them job training. They'll have the infrastructure to get to work. And you know, it's, you don't need militarized police forces if our communities are thriving, people are employed, you know, and crime goes down.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is like, it's definitely like an obvious thing, I think, to people who have actually spent some time thinking about defunding or abolishing the police. But like the quintessential difference between like a neighborhood like, say, like East Sac or Land Park or somewhere like that, and somewhere that's like deeper in the South that's a little more vulnerable, is that like the people in the two communities I mentioned first, they get those people have the things that they need. Like those people, their needs are being met. You know, they don't have like cops rolling down the street, hassling them all the time and fucking their shit up, right? It's not a matter of like some people are more violent or commit more crime in some areas. It's a matter of like who has the resources they need to like lead the lives that they want to lead. And that really is just a matter of like, okay, then let's find the communities who aren't having that experience and lift them up. You know, as opposed to just fucking like flooding the streets with goddamn cops. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent here. This isn't really what we're talking about.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I know.
We're with you on that. Well, can I ask, you know, if people want to get involved with taxing the fucking rich, how can they get involved? Who do they reach out to? And what do they do? What are you like? What does a campaign like this look like in the age of COVID?
We're asking the same questions. So what's cool right now is we have a lot of support. Almost every single DSA chapter in California has a Schools and Communities First or Prop 15 campaign running. So that's sick. And we have statewide calls every week where we discuss what our campaigns are going to look like, and digital like phone banks, text banks, events like watch parties or speaker sessions. We had a kickoff party over Zoom, which was really successful. We had like a ton of people on that call. I mean, you know, for a DSA event, but and yeah, so it's pretty much all digital phone banking and stuff. And we have one actually in Sacramento. Sacramento DSA has one this Saturday.
And how does one get involved with that? They reach out to you? Is there a URL? What?
So if you're on the DSA Slack, you could enter the Electoral Committee Slack channel, and we have posted all of the information there. It's also posted on Facebook. I believe we have a Facebook event for it, and we have Instagram. So it's Sac DSA or DSA Sac. One of them is like
One of them's the sheriff's
the
department.
sheriff's department.
Or
So
Don't
it
go
should be
there.
fairly obvious if
Tricky.
you
Yeah,
dial
I
in
think
the
you'll
wrong
figure it
one.
out.
All right,
Yeah.
Scott
Amazing.
Jones. Non-DSA members, can they partake in this too with you all?
Totally. Yeah. The Facebook event will be up and running. So just search for that.
Cool. I think we have a number of listeners who are also not DSA. So I wanted to ask a little bit about, what it is that DSA does, and what do you have kind of coming up for SAC DSA that people might want to get excited about and interested in and maybe sign up?
Yeah, well, I'll say, we're planning to have a lot of Prop 15 related events. The nice thing about it's hard because all we can do is phone banks and text banks, but on the other side, it's pretty easy to throw together a phone bank, on a weeknight and just say like, hop on this Zoom call and make 2 or 3 phone calls, while you're waiting for dinner or whatever. So we're hoping to really just like have really frequent opportunities for people to get involved. But beyond that, as I'm sure you guys know, there's lots of important local measures coming up in November. We recently had our rent control initiative finally placed on the ballot after several years of battling with city council.
I believe our mayor and the editorial board editor at the Sacramento Bee have been schooled.
Right, they got schooled. I think that's the language
Yeah.
that we're using.
Pwned.
Yeah. They did.
Pwned.
Pwned.
Yeah,
We
I would
can
say
even-
pwned is appropriate.
One might.
The
Yeah,
clinical
I'd say it.
term.
Yeah. We've been very excited about that. We went hard on that last episode.
Yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
good.
I think a lot of people in DSA are really happy to see that finally come to fruition, and there's a lot of energy.
Well, there are
around
people in
that.
DSA who have been working on this campaign for like 2 years now.
Years.
Yeah, it's been years now. So
They
The
were
that,
housing
part of-
committee is
Yeah.
going crazy.
totally. It can't that decision by the judge was extremely vindicating, I think, for quite a few people with DSA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd, like subversion of democracy going on there.
Yeah, and one more time, we mentioned her last episode, but Michelle Parasette really put herself on the line, and I can't say enough about her willingness to take on this fight. So it's been really cool to see.
Oh, and she's just heating up too. Like
Yeah.
she's just getting started on this. Excited to
Big
see
ups.
how that goes with Measure C for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, Seth, you got us going off on this now.
No, I know. Every time I bring that up, it's like you gotta sit and like
Yeah.
get pumped up about it.
Everyone's got to take a lap.
Yeah. The other measure that we're looking at, I believe, is going to be Measure A, but it's known as Strong Mayor, and it's a revision to the city's charter, which has to be voted on by the public. But I'm not totally clear on the details, but essentially, it's an attempt by the mayor to consolidate his power.
Just as we're getting 2 very young progressive women of color on the city council. Funny
very
how that works.
conspicuous timing.
Mhm.
So that's another campaign that I'm sure will be in full swing, and we're really lucky to have Katie Valenzuela on our side. I mean, she's like really taken the reins on so many of these things, and which leads me to the last thing I was going to mention, which was the People's Budget, which is a project that she has been really pushing. I think in response to calls to defund the police and change the priorities of our city and county budgets. So those are all things.
Co-host
that-
Flo's been a part of that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a broad coalition, I think, building behind that, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot that DSA is going to be working on, and there's really something for everyone. So yeah, people should check us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we also have a website, which I believe is dsasac.org. I think sacdsa.org is the sheriff.
I
But yeah,
love that. I did not know this.
So just don't, like, if you're looking for the socialists, don't fuck up and accidentally sign up with the sheriff's department.
Yeah, and become a deputy. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. No,
Or
don't.
do
Well,
it
it's
and be
don't
a
go down that
mole.
road.
I don't know.
Okay,
Bust
all right,
from the
let's-
inside.
Let's hash this out. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just to plug YDSA. If you have any college student listeners,
What's that acronym stand for?
Young Democratic Socialists. So DSA is for the old people. All
That
you
is,
crusty
I've never heard
ones.
anyone say DSA is for the old people, but
It's for the crusty ones. I'll say it.
I wish
Uh,
DSA had old people.
I know, right?
It's for the youths.
There's usually
Uh,
like two boomers that know all Marxist literature in every chapter.
And we love them.
Yeah.
And they use their Robert's rules
Mhm.
perfectly. Yeah, so I'm the co-chair of Sacramento State YDSA as of last week.
Hey,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Congrats.
So yeah, and we are doing a kind of like a coalition with some of the community colleges around the People's Budget. So we're trying to hopefully maybe work with Katie on that. And then also a bunch of college students are stuck in their leases,
Right.
but
Yeah.
aren't going to school.
Huge
they're-
fucking issue right now.
It's fucked. It's
Yeah.
fucked. So we're trying to get people out of their leases and try to get the school to be like somewhat aware of the idea because they simply do not look. They just don't want to deal with it. But yeah,
So
say good.
these are all very worthwhile things to be both for and against that you've listed here. People who want to join you in these efforts can reach out to SAC-DSA. They can, I assume, sign up to become members. Man, it sounds like it would be really expensive to join DSA. How much would that be?
You can actually choose the amount that you pay per month. Most people, I believe, pay $10 a month. But
That's not
of
bad.
course, yeah, it's certainly reasonable. What's that? One of our co-chairs always says, socialist cash takes out capitalist trash.
I like that.
Yeah, I love it.
And that always rings in my head whenever I donate to a candidate or something.
If you're
But
a
I
student-
highly recommend getting involved. SAC-DSA has been growing a lot, and as you can see, we've got a lot on our plate and a lot of great opportunities to make some change in Sacramento.
Can you tell me about, there's a panel of sorts on this Wednesday, correct? Coming up?
Yes. Is that the Micah?
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to be having a talk about Meagan days and Micah.
That would be
Utrecht.
my
Oh,
guess.
yeah. So
We
they
can
wrote
cut
a book.
that.
Well,
No,
let's
I
just cut
enjoyed
that
that.
So they wrote a book called Beyond Bernie, basically just talking about like what socialists are going to do now, beyond the Bernie Sanders campaign, and the future of the revolution. So we're going to be talking with them on the 19th over a Zoom call. I believe it starts at 6.
The 19th is a Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Wednesday.
You can, even if you're not a DSA member, you can be a part of that. And I think it's a really interesting conversation. And I think Bernie was kind of the doorway for a lot of people to their radicalism and to, their journey to the left, capital L. So I'm super excited you're doing this and glad to
Yeah.
learn more.
Yeah, the Bernie Independent Expenditure Campaign brought on so many people to DSA, and so it's really cool to kind of just like invite those people back and be like, hey, we're doing more stuff. You want to like
Right.
do it with us?
Well, it's nice
Absolutely.
too. Like, it's like, obviously, you know, it's never good to like celebrate people suffering or anything like that. But like, there are some silver linings to what's happening with the COVID pandemic. And I think one of them is that people are being radicalized all over the place right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
people for the first time are like really starting to be like, wait a minute. Why does the money work like this in this country? Why do property rights work like this? You know, why can these guys do this, but we can't do this? And I feel like there's a lot of that happening. And yeah, I mean, if you are somebody who's kind of starting to think like that, I really, really encourage you to get in touch with SAC DSA, or you know, if you don't live in SAC, your local DSA chapter, because there is one there. They're a great place to get started. That's where I got started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get to that in a minute. But like, I think you're absolutely right. There was that COVID is sort of showing that not just the Republicans don't care about workers. Democrats, we are in a state that is fully
Right.
run by Democrats, and they're not doing what they need to do to protect workers here. Reminds me of a tweet I saw the other day, where somebody was like, the workers, help us please. And then it was like, Republicans, no. And then it was like, Democrats, no. Except there was like a heart after it, and like a,
Right.
and like
And like a
LGBT
black fist in the air or
flag,
whatever.
and then
exactly.
hashtag BLM. Like, it's
Right,
no,
right.
but like all of these sort of.
But like also
But, like,
kneeling in a
cute.
kente cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No in a kente.
Oh, the
cloth, right.
kente cloth.
Oh.
Never let him live it down. No, I mean, honestly, like, and I think that is why, I mean, this November is really exciting for a number of reasons. Like, not just, I mean, Prop 15 would be an incredible thing to get passed, a monumental thing to get passed, but we're also looking at Prop 21, which is like a statewide rent control measure. We have, like, we've, you know, discussed earlier on this episode and on the show before, we've got like this huge rent control thing happening in Sacramento. There is like, there's like a lot on the fucking table at this election coming up in November. Yeah. And this is I feel like it's a good time for people to get fucking pissed and like want to get involved, you know, because we can change some shit around this November.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm excited
locally and on a state level. Even if you're not excited about the presidential race, there's so much that you can get involved with here. So, Skylar, you were mentioning, you know, people joining DSA and sort of their journeys into it. I thought it would be really fun to hear from Seth and Micaela, kind of what your journey to the left was, and kind of how you got to where you are as co-chairs of the, you know, of the political committee for SAC DSA.
Yeah, I mean, I always love hearing people's stories. It's so funny to hear, like, it's like, you know, people are going along, like, living their lives, and then something happens and they see, like, oh shit, like, this isn't how it has to be. And it's kind of, once that door is opened, it's like impossible to kind of turn away from it, I think. For me, I mean, obviously, like, the election in 2016 was like a big turning point. I mean, obviously for everyone. And I think that kind of broke me out of, like, just accepting, you know, whatever I heard from my parents or my friends or, you know, the mainstream media or whatever. But it's funny, I've thought about it a lot, and I think Twitter is really what radicalized me. I mean,
Yeah.
I love it.
Hell yeah.
I've tried to, like, find a good explanation besides that, but I go back sometimes into my like followers or people I follow, and it's chronological. You can look at people you follow, and it's chronological. So I can scroll through it and I can see like the nature of the people I follow change. And I really think that I kind of started listening to like different voices, and all of these people, the chorus of people pissed off at Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, and the way they fumbled that election. And that just, I think, brought me to DSA, and kind of that online community. But what really brought me into organizing was I went to a Bernie rally in Sacramento in August, and I met a guy named Peter Lucas, who I'm sure many of your listeners know. Yeah, he just has like that infectious energy. And he was like, he came up to me.
He was just a part of a successful campaign out in New York, right?
Yes,
That's right. He was on the
Zoran's
campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
State legislator in New York.
Super sick.
Yeah. Peter's amazing. But he I remember he just came up to me and he said like, hey, like, do you know about like DSA and like like Green New Deal, Medicare for All, like that kind of stuff? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm on Twitter. And he's like, oh, awesome, you want to sign up? And so I like put my name down, and then he and I like had a few conversations about it, and I just kind of started showing up to DSA stuff. And I think once you get involved and start like building relationships with people who are like, share your ideas and have the same goals as you, I mean, that's like just such a motivating feeling. And DSA is such a great organization because we're democratically run, membership led. And so I showed up to, my first meeting and I was voting on things and having discussions with people about the directions of the organization. And I think that's something that everybody is lacking, is like the feeling of agency in politics. The feeling that
Yeah.
the feeling that you can walk into a room and actually, make a difference or change the way things are run. Yeah, I mean, I got involved in the Bernie campaign, and then now we're coaching.
Don't interrupt him.
So the moral of the story, oh, shoot.
No, you're good.
Oh, really? Wow, you all were so
Skylar
still.
told me not to interrupt you.
I was hoping we could surf through it, but I don't think it worked.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, now I forgot what he said, so I can't tell him where we lost him.
That's all right. I think I was rambling a little bit, but I was just saying that, I highly recommend getting involved in DSA. It's such a great space. And I mean, really the moral of the story is like, go follow some socialists on Twitter and you'll find your way.
Yeah. It's funny how perfect their takes are.
Yeah, exactly.
Flawless.
I've noticed that there's a few of them on Twitter with the most perfect of the takes.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. How about you, Michaela?
I think it's funny that Seth brought up the Bernie Sanders rally, because I went to that rally with Peter and we were both canvassing the crowd. So it's crazy that he met you then.
What year was this?
It was 2019.
It was the one in Cesar Chavez Park, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was
got
out there.
Yep. Yeah, that was my first time canvassing, I think. That's where I met Andreas, who became like a really awesome organizer for the Bernie IE. So that's so funny. I didn't know that you guys met then. I think I got into DSA working as a caterer. If you've ever catered a fat wedding, it's absolutely disgusting. I
have many.
It's awful. And so I catered at probably the worst spot in Sacramento, the Crocker Art Museum, which, I mean, the art museum's fine, no beef there, but major beef with the art auctions. and the just exorbitant wealth of the people who rent out the entire museum for a wedding or a bar mitzvah or like an anniversary party, and I'm serving them pork lamb chops with my coworkers who are getting evicted from their houses, who are making $11.50 and not even getting tipped at the end because they get to choose when they want to tip, you know? It was disgusting. And I was in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school, and I had grown up knowing about socialism because my dad, not to like dox my dad or anything, but he was like totally a socialist. And like, yeah, he's cool. He immigrated here from Mexico City during the Students' Revolt.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. So shout out Ruben. But yeah, I realized that it doesn't have to be this way. There is absolutely no reason for someone to have that much wealth. And I was kind of an ultra about it for a couple of years. It's kind of like an ultra, and I wasn't really doing anything. And then I kind of took a look into Sacramento DSA through Peter Lucas also, and I realized that
Man
SAC
does
was
good
actually
work.
he does good work. I realized that SAC DSA was actually like doing stuff, you know, like I could be as left as I wanted to in my brain and be as ultra as I wanted to in my brain, but I wasn't actually doing anything. At the end of the day, I was on Twitter, tweeting, and I was in high school. I was in college when I got into DSA, and I realized I wasn't doing anything. And SAC DSA was actually like getting shit done. So yeah,
Right. A
join
place
DSA.
to put that energy.
Exactly. Yeah, that isn't just like my Twitter drafts.
Yeah.
I love it. Nothing radicalizes people faster than joining the workforce. Especially if you like have a job that brings you into like close proximity to
Contact.
people who have that kind of money.
The
Like
work.
nothing will radicalize you faster than that.
Yeah.
My experience has been very sad.
Well, yeah,
I was like
I mean,
15 and a half. I had no idea that there were people that disgustingly rich in my town.
yeah, even in this region. Yeah. Well, Skylar, well, there are 3 dues-paying members on this show currently, correct, Skylar?
Indeed there are.
Can we just hear yours real quick, your journey?
Oh, I mean, I've always been like cranky and angry, you know, but I never had a home to put all that anger and crankiness to. No, I've always been like, or I guess I can't say always, but you know, when I was in high school, fucking September 11th happened and we bombed Iraq over it, right? So that was kind of my political awakening. So I came up being like angry with George Bush and whatever, and then was like pretty hardcore into Bernie leading up to 2016. And then honestly, like after 2016, I'm not proud to say it, but like after Trump won that election, I was like, I don't want to fucking think about this anymore. Like I gotta do something else with my time because this is just making me fucking miserable. And I kind of gave up. I gave up the fight for a little while, and then AOC won her election, and that kind of that to me was like just enough of like a little spark in the darkness to be like, wait a minute, it is fucking worth like doing something about this. It is worth getting in there, and we can get some fucking work done. So I think it was like, I don't know, like it was like the week after she won her election, a friend of mine convinced me and made me go to a Beer and Roses event at Streets where I met a bunch of DSA people. And yeah, I mean, the rest is history. But yeah, I mean, DSA was absolutely my portal into like leftism for sure.
Yeah.
I
love it. I love stories like that. I was a dues paying member, but then I got back into journalism and I was like, I don't think I can pay anymore. But I was
out of ethics or because journalists are perpetually broke.
Probably a little bit of both. I was, but at the time I was working at a winery and making bank and getting free wine all the time, and so I was like, all right.
Hell yeah.
And but it was
Just renting out the Crocker Museum to throw parties.
Crocker ball.
So it was
wild. Yeah,
you.
it
Your
was,
bar mitzvah?
it was my bar mitzvah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was 2015, and it had just basically been announced that like Warren wasn't going to challenge Hillary for the Democratic primary, and I was like, this is like a fucking coronation now, and I was like really just turned off by the party, and I ended up like running into the tent for DSA at Earth Day, and ended up sitting down with the co-chairs at the time. I'm sure it was much smaller, the chapter in 2015, but it was David Roddy and Andy Sunderland, and we ended up talking about it and sort of, you know, kind of what it's about and all that. And then actually Andy's parents, who I've been in many political fights with over the years, like on the same side, showed up, and we all drank a lot, and like I ended up joining basically then. But I have not been a member since then, even though I'm happy to be on all your email lists.
Yeah, I want to mention, since Skylar brought up the Iraq War, I just finished listening to the Blowback podcast today. They had like the last episode came out today. I don't remember the names of the guys who did it, but it's a really good history of the Iraq War from like a leftist perspective. And I was, you know, I was born in 1996, so I was pretty young when 9/11 and the Iraq War happened. And it reminded me of a couple years ago watching that movie Vice. I don't know if you saw that about Dick Cheney. And I was like watching it, and like they did all this, and like nobody we don't talk about it every day.
Talk about it at all.
No.
We don't talk about like this insane shit that they did. And
That's
so
why people get so fucking mad when like Ellen DeGeneres goes to ball games with George W. Bush, or like liberals are like, oh, look, he's painting watercolors of fucking immigrant children or whatever. It's like, this man is a war criminal on fucking record. Like, what are you talking about?
His VP should be in The Hague.
He should be in The Hague
financially from this war.
There was like, this war that like defined politics for 15 years, and now we just like don't talk about it at all. But I highly recommend that podcast, especially if you know you weren't paying attention during that period. But I was just listening the whole time and being like, and it's like it's all the same people. They like, you know, it's like Joe Biden, and it's you know, Hillary Clinton, and it's all these people who are like still relevant in politics. And and it's kind of the whole point of the show is like, how are we not chasing these people out of the room?
Absolutely.
No, we're fucking trying.
You know, every time they
I'm going to switch gears a little bit here because we're starting to run out of time. We kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show, and if you are listening to this show, you probably live in or around Sacramento and are probably already aware that it's fucking hot outside. We're doing like, I mean, I don't know what it is right now. It looks like a multiple day stretch above 100 degrees, and it's not really cooling off.
Yeah,
at night.
we've had 2 days downtown where I believe, or we will have 2 days possibly, where it might be record heat in Sacramento downtown. So it's scary hot.
Yeah, it's very hot, and that sucks for. I mean, it sucks for everybody to a degree. I have 2 friends who in the last 48 hours their air conditioners have gone out in their fucking houses.
Yeah, great time to have rolling blackouts throughout the state. Thanks to PG&E
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
So that it sucks for everybody, but the people that it sucks the fucking most for are our unhoused community, who are just completely at the mercy of this fucking thing and cannot get the same amount of relief that you can get even if your AC doesn't work. there are some options. So what's happened now is that they've got cooling centers set up around Sacramento and other cities close to us. Dave, can you kind of go through some of this and let some folks know where they can go to get cooled off if they're? I mean, it is like a survival issue at this point.
So I thought you'd be doing that. So let me call it up real quick.
How do we want to do that anyway? Do we just want to list them off?
Yeah, well, I think people's eyes will glaze over if I list off all of them.
Right.
So I'll discuss that, the city and the B have put it out there. But
Cool.
yeah.
And we can link to it in the notes, yeah.
Let me just count them. Well, there's 12 centers in Sacramento, Placer, and Yolo counties. Great. When did this come out? The 13th. Just want to make sure this is accurate.
Sam's Facebook page is 2 days old, but I think it's all still accurate.
Yeah, I actually messaged him today, and he said that's all accurate. Okay, I'm ready to start. No. Just I'll do it. Sorry.
Do it.
Taking a minute. 3, 2. Yeah, there are a number of. I want to say there are a dozen cooling stations open in the region. Before I get into that, I just want to mention that Shannon tweeted today, and she said I could discuss this real quick, that one of her longtime guests at Mary House has died from the heat. She was found dead today out in the streets, and I just want to drive home once more to listeners, like, this isn't an abstraction. These are people that that we know and are good people, and this is real. This is scary, and there's so much more we should be doing on a state, county, and local level. And every day that we don't do what we should be doing is a day that someone is in danger of literally losing their life. So,
which obviously is not hyperbole, at all. That happened today. So
thanks for letting me say that. But there are 12 centers open in Sacramento, Placer, and Yolo counties. The B and the city of Sacramento have put out information on this. We're going to include all of that in the show notes. I don't think it's a good idea to just rattle this all off, but there are maps that show them. One thing I would recommend to listeners is, if you see somebody who's having a hard time, make sure you know where the cooling centers are in your region. If you can help them get there, that's really great. Just do what we can, because really, and really folks like you two, Michaela and Seth with DSA, are really living proof that in a country where the government doesn't do for people what it should be doing, we have to do it for each other. And so if you see somebody struggling out there, do what you can. So we've got those 12 centers. We also have Sam Greenlee, friend of the show, who is the executive director of Alchemist CDC. I guess, full disclosure, I used to be on that board, but not while he was on it. He has actually put together some community efforts to now have 4 community-run cooling centers in the region. There's one in Talek Village by Fruit Ridge, one in Oak Park on 14th and Ave and MLK, one in Old North Sac, Noralto at Del Paso Boulevard and Rio Linda Boulevard, and one in Elk Grove near the intersection of 2nd Ave and Elk Grove Florin Road. Since there are only 4, I figured I'd be able to just rattle those off. But there are options for people, and there are good people doing good things. And Skylar, I'm glad you brought up that we should let people know what's out there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in other news that I mean, I can't do it. That's an impossible segue. That's an
In
impossible.
other news, Skylar shaved his head.
Yeah.
He does a sag at the end of every episode. And
Yeah. But normally I can come in with a little more.
It's just
I can
too
be a little
heavy.
more jocular about it than coming in after that.
Anywho.
Dave, earlier you mentioned perfect takes. And that's actually become quite a hobby of mine, as I have been unemployed since March. And I have done a lot of trawling through Twitter in search of these perfect takes, but it's come to my attention that there might be a place that I could go on the internet where they're sort of condensed down and distilled down to only the most perfect takes. And if I wanted to go find those takes, where would you suggest that I go to seek them out?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked, and I'm so sorry to hear about your work situation.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm surprised you didn't come to us earlier on this.
I didn't want to worry you.
But there is one such place with a distillation of perfect takes so strong that it is effectively the moonshine of perfect takes.
All right.
And it's called voicesrivercity.com. We've been around for about 3 years. In our first iteration, we were doing news, we were doing arts coverage, we were doing community voices, essays that were effectively community activists who you knew the neo-lib wouldn't be putting on their op-ed section. We also were doing the Sac Follows the Money project, which has been just really popular over the years, showing all the real estate folks that have been and cops that have been giving our local, supposedly Democratic politicians money for their campaigns, and it helps your average person to understand why they do what they do up there on the dais. Our current iteration, of course, has been nearly exclusively the podcast. We've been having a lot of fun with that. Obviously, it's more news commentary than news, but we do break news. We broke the news of Michelle winning her case against the city, and of the fact that we're actually going to be able to vote on real rent control. And we plan to do more news write-ups and community voices write-ups in the very, very near future. That's it. And then we are on Twitter at Voices River City, Facebook Voices River City, Instagram at Voices River City. Skylar runs that, and I laugh every fucking time you post a clip on there because I never know what you're going to post. And then we're also
magic.
It's so fun. And then you do shit too that like isn't. It's like between recording moments that it's like we're just talking nonchalantly, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, the public knows this now about my Polish roots. But we're also we have a patreon.com/voicesrivercity. Put $5 down. It's a beer at the bar that none of us are going to right now if we're doing what we should be doing in response to COVID. You can go as high as $25 a month. If you do that, you get a mug and a T-shirt. I am on
You also get exclusive content. We have Super Sleuth Shannon, kind of took us through like sort of an alternate history of the Golden State Killer on the last one. Mm-hmm. And you you can hear me and Dave screaming about how much Democrats suck on another one. So,
and our upcoming one will be the four of us, the four hosts, discussing homegrown film Lady Bird. So we're very excited about that.
I'm not excited about that, but I will watch the movie because now I have to because of this show.
Yeah. I am on why do I keep saying Instagram? Nobody follow me on Instagram. Jesus Christ. I am on Twitter at YouKnowKempa, YOUKNOWKEMPA.
I am Guillotine for You. That's Guillotine, the number 4 YOU.
And for our two amazing guests, if you want people to keep track of your politics on your social, where can they find you? Michaela, I see your face right now. It's okay to not
Christ
give
almighty,
anything.
I don't need anyone following me on Twitter. For the love of God, do not look at my takes. I'll set this one out. Thanks.
All right. Done.
All right, Seth.
I'll offer my takes to you. I'm on Twitter at the young7 v_young_7.
Sick.
The number 7.
Awesome. And we already said where we think Sac DSA is on the internet. Just you know, you might
just
also
don't
find the
accidentally
sheriff's
join the
department.
sheriff's
You'll
department.
figure it out.
If you would like to
Different
follow
coloring, yeah.
either of our guests or either of our hosts who are not on tonight, you can find Shannon on Twitter at ShannND Stevens.
And Flo is at Flojaune, FLOJAUNE.
That's correct.
And
Right.
I want to thank our two guests. And this was actually a little last minute. So it was really cool to get you on to discuss Prop 15, to discuss Sac DSA. It's been wild to watch DSA grow over the years. And, you know, seeing leadership from folks like you, it's just, you know, I can't be happier just watching this shit happen.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having us. This was great. Yeah, this is actually the first podcast I've ever been on, so
All right.
I'm very
right.
psyched. It's always been a dream of mine, you know, to be invited on a podcast.
I've been
Hey,
on a
well,
podcast,
if you do
but I
cool
don't-
shit, man, people invite you on a podcast to talk about it.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Keep doing this cool shit you're doing. And I'm sorry my dog keeps barking. She's actually barking at cops outside the window right now. So
Good girl, Olive.
And she has the
Yeah.
right to do it.
Comrade.
She has yeah,
That'd be
my
great.
my friends call her Olive Marks, and she always has like roses on her bow ties and stuff. She's like a 60-pound pit bull.
A true
Oh
comrade.
my god. My dog is sitting underneath my legs, asleep like a little angel.
I wish she would do that.
Well, guys, thank you so much again for coming on the show, especially at late notice. It was a real pleasure to talk to both of you. To our listeners, we love you, and we're gonna do this too, man.
We'll do this. We'll figure this out.
We're gonna get this going. Okay.
Okay.
We love you. We want you to stay safe,
Stay sane
stay healthy,
and stay the fuck away from me.
and stay fucking cool. Like, stay
Yeah, please stay.
cold. Yeah, cold
Take
enough.
care of yourselves. Hydrate.
Yes, hydrate. Drink water even if you don't think you need it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's be done.